So look, welcome to Luke's Mountain. I'm calling it the mountain that tries to kill my tents. But look, tonight I'm out to actually test out the Samaya Assaut2 8K tent. And I'm going to look at it under a number of different categories. I'm going to look at how easy it is to set up, what's it like weather resistance wise, what unique features has the tent got, what's it like at handling and dealing condensation, and how sort of livable is a tent. Also in the video, I've got a new sleeping bag and we'll have a first look at that as well. So it should be a good video. Thank you for tuning in and I hope that you enjoy it. So just now obviously assembling the poles first. Don't think it really matters when you do it, but just decided to get the poles ready to go. And now the tent just out of the bag. I mean, there's not significant wind tonight that I need to secure the tent to me, but I'm just gonna give my bag one sort of roll over just to make sure that nothing actually blows out of the bag. Don't want to lose any of the nice stuff sacks. And just orientating the tent tail into the wind. So at the moment I have only pegged the tent on the windward end. Now the poles here, they have black sections and they go down into like a solid, into the pole sleeve. Now the vent cover here, I have actually only attached it at one end. So what's going to happen is the wind's going to hit the tent and it's going to blow the vent cover down this direction, and that still allows me to see what's going on here regarding the poles, just so that the pole sleeves are not sticking. And I can see what's happening here, and everything is just much more smooth. And at the far end I've just made sure that the pole is completely fully seated in the pole sleeve. And then just pulling on the tension adjusters. So the main structure of the tent's pretty much up now, and that actually went up super fast, and all I have to do now is from the far side thread this pole through this top pole sleeve. And then lastly here is just to sort of stick this vent cover on. And this just clips in here. I mean, I'm just going to pop this on now. I can't do this and hold the camera at the same time. So that's really the vent cover on. And all I have to do now is pop out the guy lines to properly secure the tent. So that's the tent fully set up and pitched. Marks out of 10. If I was going to give it marks out of 10, I'd probably give it a 9. I mean, the pole sleeves are quite narrow, and to be fair, they're also quite thin, so you just need to be very careful with that. You can't be too rough with it. You have to just take your time. But I mean, the poles going to the pole sleeves very easy. It's only 2 poles, so it goes up super fast. There's probably about a 15-mile-an-hour wind at the moment, you know, and I didn't find the tent catching too much of the wind. You know, it was very, very stable, and now that it's guyed out, it's pretty good. So all in all, you know, pitching and ease of pitching and speed of setup, you know, very, very straightforward. So a definite 9 out of 10 so far. So while I'm getting some tea organised, let's talk about some of the unique features and adaptability of this tent. So first of all, the obviously big thing here is it's a single skin tent, and the big issue, or in the past, the big issue with single skin tents has been condensation. And this tent is well equipped to deal with that, with the vent cover here, but also really, really good venting on either side. Now, to be fair, I nearly always camp in environments that are windy, and that helps reduce condensation, and that's one of the reasons why I selected this tent, because I thought it would be good for me. So really, it's well featured. The zips and everything on this here, you know, are kind of waterproof zippers, and there's nice sort of toggles on the zippers there, you know, as well. And that's the same on both sides. So in the morning I'll sort of have a condensation report, and it'll be interesting to see how the tent really does. But I mean, at the end of the day, this tent is designed for summits, for harsh conditions. It will excel in cold, dry conditions, and also in conditions where there's a temperature gradient between the inside and the outside, and that just helps the breathability of the tent. But at the end of the day, no tent is going to be amazing in all conditions. You know, every single tent that I have had, there are certain conditions where it kind of struggles a little bit, but when you're buying a tent, I reckon it's just sort of getting a tent that'll suit, you know, a good lot of the conditions that you're going to go actually camping in. Now, other features, it's a Dyneema or a Dyneema composite fabric here, just on the bottom, and obviously there's other extensive use of Dyneema to keep the weight down as well. Another unique feature of this tent is that there's actually like a sling in the top here that if you're sort of climbing, you can clip into that because it goes through to the inside of the tent, you know, for safety and security if there's a risk of you falling. So just further regarding the adaptability of this tent, you know, I've decided tonight to come up here. I knew I wouldn't need the vestibule, so I just saved myself, you know, 1,600 grams, and I've been able to cook and organise and do everything here with the wind on the back of the tent, and I've got a sheltered sort of opening. So that's pretty much all I'm going to cover this evening. In the morning, I will actually talk about, you know, the livability of the tent after I've spent the night in it, and particularly when I've been closed down in a more restricted space. I'll also talk about weather resistance if we have any wind, and of course the condensation. Good morning. So straight into three things that I want to cover about this tent after sleeping in it last night. First of all, the livability. So I'm sitting on my, I think it's the pad that I'm sitting on is 9 centimeters thick. When you do sit on it, of course you kind of do bottom out on it, but this is the height in the tent. Now I'm kind of touching the little gear loft that comes with a tent. I'm sort of touching that a bit, but if that gear loft was out, wasn't there, I wouldn't be touching the roof. Space for shoulders, you know, or for room, you know, and for me getting and moving about in the tent, you know, backwards or forwards or right back into the tent, I have tons of room. And this is what I got the tent for. I got the tent as a one-person tent. Bearing in mind it is designed as a two-person tent, but it is designed to be put on narrow ledges and camped in areas where you have very, very limited space. Again, I'm not going to really assess it as a two-person tent because, you know, I don't have somebody else here to sort of get in and move around the tent. But for me, for one, really, really good. You know, as I said, you've got a gear loft up here, you have ventilation at the top and back, you have pockets, the full side, you know, brilliant. Now, one thing that I did find actually is a lot of these tents are sort of quite short. I'm 6'1", and I sort of found, you know, quite hard for me really and truthfully to demonstrate this, but, you know, I actually found no issues at all in the tent, respective length, and it was, you know, was really, really good. So the livability for me as one person, you know, brilliant. In fact, if I was to give it a rating out of 10, you know, for me, one person, you know, it's coming right up there on a 9 or a 10 out of 10. You know, it's absolutely perfect. Right, the big one, condensation. At the moment, there isn't any. I mean, there's no condensation at all. It's 8:30 in the morning. Now, I got up to go to the loo about 4 o'clock in the morning, and there was some dampness on the roof. I didn't film it because there wasn't really that much. When I say dampness, there was some dampness on the roof here. The sort of zipper cover on the inside here, there was a little bit. And on the top here, a little bit, but absolutely no drips. Sleeping bag test, the bottom of the sleeping bag. It's bone dry. You know, again, there's a little bit of dampness in the morning, but it's now bone dry. So that really comes down to, and finally sort of on the livability, because I've the tent set up with no vestibule at the moment, I did kind of bring my boots and everything into the tent, and obviously I had tons of room for that. The one thing that I didn't bring into the tent was my water bladder. I mean, this is pretty reliable, but just in case, I wouldn't want to have to deal with that amount of water in the tent. So look, my final thoughts on the tent. I got this tent because I wanted to use it for one person in the type of conditions that I camp, and that's in sort of windy environments that are quite exposed and harsh, fairly harsh conditions. This is not a test of this last night, so I'm not going to be able to cover really a weather resistance, but don't worry, that will be done in some future videos. But the tent, for me, has worked really, really well. I had minimum condensation, very, very livable, loads of space, and I reckon it's pretty strong. So far on this quest for me, finding the perfect tent, this one is heading in that direction. No tent is absolutely perfect, but this one is hopefully heading there. And I'm really glad of the choice that I have made on this particular model. Now, when we're talking about that sort of full disclosure here, Samaya did actually send me this tent, but they have no input into the review whatsoever. In fact, I actually don't even have to review this tent. I'm making that choice to do it entirely of my own accord. And as I said, this was a tent from Samaya that I actually wanted to test because I think it would suit me for my types of conditions. So I did also say I was going to sort of talk about it and show you a first look, and this is what it is. This is my new sleeping bag, and you'll get some idea when I'm moving this around here of the loft in this. This is a RAB Mythic 600. It is filled with 600 grams of 900 fill power down. The total bag weighs 880 grams and has a comfort rating of -5. Quickly then, the materials, it's ultralight 7 denier fabric. Now it's actually the older model. The new one uses an Atmos fabric, and this one uses the older Pertex. But I mean, 7D fabric is 7D fabric, and Pertex is pretty well known in the industry, and it allows it to really, really loft. So my first impression of the bag, I was wanting it to be lofty, and obviously there's only so much loft a 600 gram bag can have of 600 grams of down, and the loft in this is insane. It is fantastic. It's actually made me think, what, I should have gone for the Mythic 400. There's so much loft in this. I mean, it's fantastic. The materials, and the likes, it's quite a bit hard for me to show you inside the tent here, but the baffles at the neck, are massively thick. All the toggles and everything, are really just it's a wee bit hard to use. You have to squeeze it at the sides. They're really top quality. The zipper pull, even has a little glow in the dark on it. And behind the zipper here, I think the fabric feels a little bit tougher, for anti-snag. So really impressed. The baffles are like a sort of a chevron design, so they're like a sort of a slight V shape on the bag. And the build quality and construction is absolutely fantastic. I mean, it feels really premium, so I'm completely delighted. So I'll be reviewing that in full later on the channel. So that's really about it. Thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Until next time.